The research had an interdisciplinary approach and used a wide variety of methods to allow interaction between researchers and staff from different fields. For example, field visits were timed such that several researchers and staff were in the field together at the same time. They had group discussions, individual interviews with villagers, village leaders and government officials. Also, longer field visits gave first-hand observation of village resource management. Local people with specific knowledge on the research topics were trained to collect data and to understand the principles behind their studies. In this way, it was possible to integrate local knowledge and the more scientific knowledge in practice, creating something quite unique. The relevance of the results, as the research had been constantly adjusted based on local conditions and people's actual management practices. The focus of the research was decided in several steps. AKRSP had from its beginning concentrated on social and institutional development with a focus on agricultural resources. Over time, the importance of common pool resources, that means the resources above the irrigation channel, to the people's livelihood became apparent. AKRSP as an organization, however, had little knowledge of how these resources were managed. Thus, the entire project was based on expressed need by AKRSP to learn more about the common resources above the channel and how they were linked to livelihood activities below the channel. Therefore, the components chosen for study focused on systems of forest, pasture and wildlife management, including institutional and gender aspects. These were broad components, however, the details and focus were developed during initial discussions with the villagers, and they were thus able to design experiments which were appropriate for local conditions. For example, the studies done on animal nutrition were designed together with the villagers. They were able to explain what the local constraints were in terms of animal breeds, reproduction, pasture conditions, access to land and grazing, and also how these were integrated with social and cultural aspects of animal management. Conventional research on animal nutrition might never have considered these issues.
We come to know that in which month animals need additional food, and we discuss this with the farmers. Yes, they have their own traditional system, but according to time need, it must be changed. Previously, the population of the Basho Valley was very less. Time to time it increased. The farmer must be look this difference, and they must be provide the additional things, additional food to animals. They must keep the animal in stall feeding, because in this way they can increase the productivity of the animal as well as the health of the animal.
In the case of forestry, one of the main problems was considered deforestation, but there had never been done an inventory to find out how much forest there is or had been. So therefore this part of the project aimed at doing an inventory of natural forest resources and make an assessment of regeneration. The forest inventory was done in teams, including villagers, forest officials and project staff from Pakistan and Norway. And during the process it became clear that regeneration was a serious problem. As a result of this observation, several plots were made to be able to have a closer look at regeneration, like the effects of grazing of animals, moisture content and the soil type.
So the local people were able to see by themselves while they conducted research with the researchers from the project, that their livestock also damages the forest. Of course, they were aware from before, but still during the process of this research, they were really able to see which parts are more depleted. Those forest areas which are near to the village, where summer pastures exist, they are more degraded compared to those areas which are far from the village and the summer pastures.
Development activities on natural resource management are mainly focused on men, even though the women play a central role in, for example, agricultural production, water management, animal care and firewood collection. Men are partially involved in agriculture, but more heavily in animal breeding and increasingly in wage labor and employment in the city. This means that men leave the valley for longer periods of time and that the women get more responsibility on the farm and in the village. It was therefore extremely important to involve the women in the general discussion on resource management. But the selected research site, Basho Valley, appeared to be rather complicated on this matter.
That field experience, for that very intensive field experience, I should say, for these 3-4 years is now helping us to broaden our concepts about communities, what are their issues and how can we tackle, because Basho experience was not so easy, it was very tough. We were drawn into many problems, many issues, many sensitive issues, mainly related with religious concerns and cultural taboos. Now it's like very easy for us to work in other hard communities or difficult communities, because now we have learned how to solve the problems, how to clear the misconceptions and how to satisfy the communities.
One of the main thing is the nature of the community, which was very conservative, but after 3-4 years, 4-5 years research in that area, now they are liberal and they are looking for